Hello, bloomers, and welcome. Today we have our very first guest, Andy, who happens to be a very good friend of mine. So let's give Andy a big warm welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, Andy. I'm very glad that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Okay, so let's begin with where you're based, how old you are, and just a little bit about yourself.
So I live in Folkestone in Kent. I'm 29. I'm currently working in a restaurant, although on the side I'm a amateur artist. Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your artistry. What's your niche?
So I'm a printmaker. So very traditional forms of art, including lino and screen print. Very much inspired by nature and mythology. Yeah, it's a very niche type of art, but it's me.
Fabulous. And I see a painting or something behind you. Is that one of your pieces of work?
That's not actually mine. That's actually a screen print I bought at a print fair, but I quite like it. It's above my desk to inspire me.
Do you have any of your own work?
Oh, well, if I turn the camera around a bit, that's one of mine, if you can kind of see it.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's my big one, my big A1.
Love it. And are you selling your things?
Not currently, although I'm hoping to set up an Etsy account. So that would be available on my Instagram soon.
Fabulous. Sounds exciting.
So
let's move on to the next question. So tell us about your journey to veganism. How long have you been vegan and what got you here in the first place?
Well, I started as a vegetarian, must have been around 14 or 15. Originally started when I saw a video in a food tech class in school. It was on the food industry, and it showed all the slaughterhouse, all the work into that. And yeah, it just obviously stuck with me and made me decide I don't really like that. And from there, it's been a bit of a journey, as I only turned vegan 1.5 years ago. So it's been quite a while. And for many years, I didn't even really think about the dairy industry or the effect till about 3 years ago, when I just realized how much dairy, even like especially as vegetarians, we intake. It's quite a lot. And originally, it just started with cutting out a few products, and then I sort of learned more about what goes on and how it is just as bad, sometimes even worse, than slaughterhouses. So from there, it's just been a process, slowly cutting out, and now it's been a 1.5 years for me.
Awesome. You go, girl.
Thank you.
So what is it exactly that made you suddenly decide that you wanted to go that extra mile from vegetarian to vegan? Was there a specific moment that made you, like there was when you turned vegetarian? Did you have a vegan moment where you just had a light bulb moment, or was it? I don't
think there was a moment. I think the first thing I properly cut out was milk, because I've always just really, like, even though I've always drank milk, I always just found it really weird because of what it was. But because of society, you're kind of taught to ignore that. So it's one of those things that even when I would have cereal, I would just push it to the back of my mind, even though I was thinking this is really, really weird because it comes from a cow's tit. Yeah, I mean, it was quite hard cutting out cheese and stuff like that. I think it was just when I became more aware of what happens in the dairy industry that it was like became something I couldn't turn back from.
So how did you find out exactly what happens within the dairy industry?
It was a few years ago. I can't actually remember if I looked into it or if it was something I just saw like online. I don't think I researched it. I think it was just something that sort of came up, and I just read into, and then from there led into trying to learn more about it. And
Okay,
yeah, was quite shocked.
makes
'Cause
sense. So you mentioned cheese, so it brings me on to the next question, which is, what did you find the hardest to give up? Was it cheese?
Yeah, that was one. I think dairy in general is very hard if you're a vegetarian, because that's pretty much what is substituted for meat sort of in the world, like in a restaurant and in a lot of meals. They just kind of go, oh well, there's no meat, let's just put cheese or
Yeah.
cream. So yeah, dairy probably. Yeah.
And how did you, like, do you have any little tips as to how you got over like craving that dairy?
Um, well, I at first I didn't really like vegan cheese. It took me a while to find a good one. But I kind of just learned to adapt without it, and then I ended up finding some nice cheese. And even though I have that, it's not something I have a lot of. It's a very minute amount to last me for like
Which
a couple of
insane
weeks.
saying.
Yeah. Definitely.
So me and Andy, when we've known each other for a really long time, when we were growing up, we used to go around our friends' houses and literally like just
Cheese.
blocks of cheese and just eat and munch on these blocks of cheese. Like, we were both totally obsessed with cheese. So
Yeah.
you know, for Andy to suddenly say, I don't really eat cheese that much, like, that's a real big deal. And it just kind of shows, you know, what dairy can do to us. Like, it's quite an addictive substance. So thank you for that. So what do you miss the most as a vegan?
What do I miss most? Do you mean like in food or?
Yeah, food, or it could be any other things that you don't do anymore because of veganism.
I wouldn't really say there is any food I miss now, because I've learned to adapt. There really isn't any food. I mean, I suppose like you can't technically replicate a steak, but a lot of meat I wasn't necessarily that big on to begin with. So for me, I mean, I suppose pizza was quite hard to adapt to at first. But overall, I found there's a lot of great alternatives, whether you make it yourself or buy it in the shop.
Okay, that's cool. So what is your ultimate favorite vegan food?
Ultimate favorite. So I'm a big foodie. I'm always trying new recipes, and I'm amazed at what you can make. So yeah, Carnus can keep their McDonald's and KFC. Like, I love cooking. I'd say if there's one thing I'd have to choose that's specifically vegan, I'd say probably tofu. Just because I love, like, when you cook it right, like with corn flour and roast it, you can get it nice and crispy. You can season it so it tastes very, 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 very powerful taste, whether it's peppery or salty or whatever. And yeah, I just love that crunch, and you can have it with tortilla wraps or stir fries. So yeah, for me, that's one of my favorite. Not that I have it too much there.
That's awesome. It's an interesting one because there's a lot of people that, you know, they'll turn their nose up at tofu. And like my experience of tofu, when I first ever had it, it was amazing. But then the second time I had it, it literally was the most vile thing I'd ever eaten in my life. And it's taken me a while myself to like tofu, but I love tofu as well. Like, it's probably my go-to, especially smoked tofu. That's a nice one because I can just fry it and just eat it just as it is, and it's great.
And it goes with so many things.
Is there a like a little trick that makes tofu good when you cook it? Because I know it's something a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you recommend when you're cooking tofu? How do you best cook tofu?
You can marinate it. This adds a bit of flavor. If you're someone that finds it a bit bland, you can marinate it. But me, I don't even usually bother doing that. I usually just lightly season it. Cajun spice works very well. And then corn flour, coat it with corn flour. put a generous helping of salt. I don't normally use too much salt in cooking, but for tofu, you know, it's a nice little treat every now and then. So I give it a nice bit of salt, then a bit of oil, roast it about 20 minutes, half an hour, so it's nice and crispy, and then you're good to go.
Sounds awesome. Thank you for the tips. Hope
No
that's been
worries.
helpful, guys. So, next question. Have you ever been involved in vegan activism?
No, I've never been involved. Not that I never would, I just haven't yet. I do often use environmental issues in my art, and I'm currently in the early stages of a project that is very much about the natural world, but it's going to show the implications of factory farming, and just sort of give a bit more information and show it in a visual way, and hopefully have an impact.
Well, that sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. Hopefully I can get
Definitely,
started.
you definitely have to share it with us when you're finished, and we'll
Definitely.
you know, put a little link or something so you can send, so people can see it. So the last question is, so what is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that is looking to be vegan?
I would say really think about why you're wanting to make the change, as it is a huge adjustment, and a lot of people do experiment with vegetarianism or veganism, but a lot of the time it is something that doesn't stick, and they can often sort of look back on it and feel resentment because it didn't live up to what they thought it would. But I'd say do research, learn about where your food comes from, and really decide if you want to be a part of that, because you need conviction to go through with it, because the whole world is designed in a way that they want you to eat meat because it's profitable. So you really need the conviction to change your diet, and then cooking as well. It's important to be comfortable with trying new foods. The more you cook, the more you're going to be open to sort of new recipes, and that's kind of one of the great things about being vegan is all the amazing things you can cook with so little. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for sharing. Those are some really good tips.
Well, thank you.
It has been wonderful chatting to you. I've even got to know a little bit more about you, which is always awesome.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you so much. And just to end before we say goodbye, if anyone watching would like to get to hold of you, how can they get hold of you?
So Instagram is probably one of the better ways. I use this mainly for my art, but you can message me directly. So that the Instagram for that is Phoenix_press_printing. That is my username.
Fabulous. And are you on any other social medias that people can reach out to you if they want to?
I'm on Facebook, but I can't actually remember my details for that. I don't use Facebook very often. I suppose my email is another one. So andrewstewart83@yahoo.co.uk.
Okay, fabulous. Well, that is all for our interview today. I really hope that you've enjoyed it. Thank you again, Andy, for sharing. And thank you guys for watching. Much love.
See you later.